Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Killer of the Past podcast. I'm your host, Hengzi Zhu, and I have my co-host, Marvin Hawkins with me. And today we're gonna go over the killer Pol Pot. The music you're hearing right now is a Cambodian folk song that online trolls used to parody Pol Pot and his regime. And over the years, this has been attributed to him now. Who is Pol Pot? Pol Pot was the official chairman slash dictator of the Democratic Republic of Cambodia, a Southeast nation in Southeast Asia, border between Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos. During the late 20th century, during the Cold War, which is an era defined by ideological struggle between the capitalist West, headed by the U.S., and the communists, led by the Soviet Union and Communist China. They waged an ideological war against each other, not by direct warfare, but by proxy warfare, in which they were support different nations who is having either a civil war or different fractions of their corresponding ideology, and they will create tension and eventually lead to proxy war against each other. And one of these countries was Cambodia, in which it originally had a monarchy after it gained independence from France in the 1950s. But due to communist influence, the communist regime known as Khmer Rouge in Cambodia took over, and Pol Pot became the leader of this country. And unfortunately, he is a killer because he was a mean-spirited individual that had no concern with his people, and honestly no clue on how to run his country, that led to approximately 2 million deaths, which is really bad for Cambodia, because given the size of the country and it only had a population of 6 million people, that means 1 in 3 people died. Do you have any remarks, Mr. Hawkins?
Yeah. But see, you're right, and you're exactly right. You know, per capita, he's probably the worst killer as compared to Mussolini and Hitler and Stalin, because the point you just brought up that was good is the fact that it's only 6 million people in the country, and he killed 2 million of them. So per capita, that makes him the worst of all the killers in the 20th century.
Yeah.
The other thing that he, as growing up, he didn't have the use of growing up poor, you know, or middle class. Like, we know Hitler was poor. We know Stalin didn't start out with a lot of money either. We also know that Mussolini was sort of like middle class. He wasn't poor per se. But this guy, his family had money. They had land. What's his excuse for doing what he did to his people? Also, too, you mentioned that he was a communist leader, and you know, people realize, like, the term communist is thrown out. It's thrown a lot out in this country, but if this is not a communist country, not by no stretch of the imagination, because in a communist country, you don't own anything. Government has control over everything. You have no freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech. But yes, I found him very interesting in the sense that he's not really talked about in the American history books. You wouldn't even. He's like you might get a sentence or two out of the history books that's in maybe in the high school level, but as a former middle school teacher, he was not in the books. So now, okay, so he ruled for about 4 years, but he was overthrown by the North Vietnamese.
Yes. So in terms of his policies, Pol Pot is a communist. He originally was exposed to communism when he was sent to study in Paris by his rich farmer family.
Yes,
Um,
you're right. He was very well educated as well.
yeah, and actually, he had the luxury of almost failing all his classes when he was in university in Paris because he was too busy doing whatever. Um, and he actually said that Karl Marx Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital was too complex for him to comprehend. Um, so because of partially due to that, he is ideologically a Maoist. He follows the killer we mentioned in previous episodes, Mao Zedong's version of communism,
Mhm.
which is agrarian socialism, which refers to the idea that um, unlike Soviet communism, which focuses on giving power to the workers in urban pot centers, Maoism focuses on giving power to the peasants in rural areas. And Pol Pot really focused on that ideological aspect because during his four short four short years of reigning Cambodia, he sought to de-urbanize Cambodia, basically turn it back to the Stone Age, because he believed that capitalism was the enemy of everything. As most communism ideological ideologist believes, and he seeks to decolonize that institution. So he forcefully relocated urban centers in Cambodia back to the countryside, and he categorized people into three groups. Um, New people, which is those who have been recently relocated back to the rural countryside. Um, kind of new people, which was those who have been working in like suburban, semi-urban areas.
Mhm.
That doesn't hold like any important positions, like the bourgeoisie. Um,
Right.
yeah, and old people, which are original farmers. Um, and there was there was a lot of things he changed, such as he tried creating a new language system. He tried he he named he named the he got rid of the calendar system and started referring to 1976, the year he started his reign, as year zero.
Mhm.
And everyone was forcibly to work in communes, in which uh, families were broken apart. The ideas of families was shouldn't exist, and everyone was just in numerical orders, like person one, person two, uh,
Yeah. Didn't
in the
didn't
cause
he
of
take? Oh,
increasing steel production.
but didn't he take? Okay, so when he started his purge,
Right.
what really made him? What really made him do all this craziness? Because I'm seeing where he took school and turned them into torture places. Like, why? Why all the? Why kill your own people?
Uh, that is mainly our paranoia. because you have to understand that this is his government existed within the context of the Vietnam War, in which yeah, active war waged at the borders of Cambodia and Vietnam, and with the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So there was a lot of Western and potential espionage going on, and there's a lot of similarities between Pol Pot and Mao's governments, and like we saw in the Cultural Revolution, um, it's very easy for local officials to fabricate paranoia, saying like, "Oh, there's counter-revolutionaries within the people we must persecute," and they will use that excuse to amass power, uh, which made paranoia and people accusing each other of counter-revolutionary
Hmm.
um, spread like wildfire. Uh, and yeah, naturally, when trust breaks down, you see it happen over and over again throughout communist regimes and in human history. People become more and more violent. And this is specifically extremely rampant during Pol Pot's regime because um, given the context of the war and him specifically, by that point he had consolidated a lot of power, and his regime wasn't afraid to uh, execute brute force against each other. Given the small size of his country,
Hmm.
it created a very strong "oh, you guys need me, I'm always right" mentality, which led to a lot of killing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm seeing, but now we our fourth episode, and it seems to be a pattern with these dictators of how they are doing their killing. In other words, they're creating. Well, you did mention the main thing was paranoia. They're all paranoid. They're always thinking something's out to get them, and then they have to create an enemy and
Yeah.
create that enemy, and then you get other people to fall in line with you to eliminate this enemy. Then after you get rid of this particular, it could be a group, could be a specific group, and then you get rid of this specific group, and guess what? You got to come up with another enemy, or even worse yet, the people that helped you eliminate the enemy, you now get paranoid against them, and now you have to kill them. So it's like a constant cycle of killing, and, and all these dictators seem to fall in line with that. So that's well, we've talked about this before. With absolute power corrupts absolutely. Especially when there's no checks in that. If you could do whatever you want when you feel like doing it, guess what? You're gonna keep doing it, and no one
Mhm.
can stop you. And that's what people have to realize, that there's a big difference between a democracy and communism. Big difference. Big difference between democracy, communism, and dictatorship. One man cannot rule. It has never worked. And it always ends in the destruction of the dictator. Except now in this case. Um, so he killed 2 million people, 1/3 of his population.
Yes, one-third of its population, and actually, it had a massive dent in the life expectancy in Cambodia. As
Mhm.
you can see in this graph, even though it's inverted, before he started his 4-year rule, uh, life expectancy was around 40 years. But during the Cambodian genocide, it fell all the way down to 12 years.
Wow.
Um, and what's crazier is that doesn't even reflect the fact that a big demographics of people being killed were babies because um, they were creating scenarios where they confess people of treason and counter-revolution, and that usually led to their family being killed, which included women and their children also. And the logic for that was that if they killed the baby, then the baby wouldn't exact revenge on them when the baby grew up, which is very messed up. But it
Yeah,
seemed like it didn't stop them from making these killing
yes,
fields.
you are exactly correct with that, and that's even with pretty much all of the wars and revolutions. For example, I'm trying to think now of something. There's something I can't remember. Um, it'll come to me probably later on. But during all right, the Nat Turner uh, where he went from plantation to plantation, um, killed men, women, and children. Same philosophy that because he figured kill if you don't kill the children, they're gonna come back and get their revenge as well, even though he was fighting for freedom.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Pol Pot wasn't fighting for nobody's freedom.
No, no, no. He was merely transforming Cambodia into another communist utopia, but it seemed like it has never worked in practice. Um, in fact, he prepared to create a cult of personality around himself. However, um, it was too late even though because in the 4 short years he reigned, not only did he cause so much killing, it has garnered. He was also killing a lot of ethnic Vietnamese in the Cambodian territories, which
Right.
yeah caused tension between Cambodia and Vietnam, which led to the
Mm.
invasion of Cambodia. So his regime was put down by the Vietnamese regime in
Yeah,
1979.
yes,
Yeah.
because when you're like how he is, and all these dictators must always have another enemy. You must always have chaos, and then that you causing the chaos, and then you solving the chaos with the killing. Now, the only thing that in with with all these dictators, they have a violent end. How come he didn't have one? This guy just basically got away scot free.
Right. I believe Pol Pot fled to the he fled to China during the Vietnamese invasion of Cambodia. Uh, and afterwards, he lived out the rest of his life. Um, it is because he had he got lucky,
Well, he
even though
yeah, oh he yeah,
yeah
that's exactly it. He got extremely lucky
yeah
because nobody you people who are evil on that level never escape.
yeah
They never almost never escape. He's the only person that I know of that actually escaped. He
yeah
got a, he got away with it.
yeah. He did so much damage to his country that when Vietnam invaded Cambodia, the remaining military of Cambodia was so weak it couldn't, it could barely repel the invasion and let alone have a coup d'état against Pol Pot. So he was able to flee amidst the chaos and
Hmm.
live out to old age until when he passed away in 1919. Let me just confirm. 1998 at the age of
1998.
72.
Yeah. And how old was he?
72. At the age of 72.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even though he has been at the end of his lifespan, be accused of several claims of crimes against humanity, uh, he never acknowledged it. There is a famous video of him saying, um, him with a cane and with gray hair saying, "Look at me, I'm a pleasant old man. Do I really look like someone that killed 3 million of my own people?" And my conscience is clear, just so you know.
Wow. Well, he can say whatever he likes, but the point is, um, the facts don't lie. So, how many people died for no reason? And yes, he has been credited with at least 3 million during this time. Plus, starving people to death as an after effect of the Khmer Rouge. And it's like, where's their you gotta have a conscience, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, and obviously these people like him don't, and we're living in a, as much as times have changed and we're going through history, it's like it seems like every single um let's say every single generation we have we have some good leaders and then we have evil. And it's like during that time period, 20th century, we have evil. And we talked about this. We had Hitler, Mussolini, we had Mao, we had Tojo, we had Stalin, and then now we come around. I'm not gonna mention no name, but we come around this time in history, and it seems like it keeps the cycle keeps.
yeah,
The only thing that we're missing, and we continue to miss it, is World War III. That's the one thing we need to not get to because that would definitely change everything that we love. All this, especially this using now, would no longer exist.
yeah. There's too much to lose.
Oh yeah, besides your life as well. But but yeah. Matter of fact, they even said that it was if there was a third war, um, you probably lose at least 4 to 5 billion people. And then just to quote Einstein, we don't really know how World War III, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah,
That's for certain.
yeah. And as we have seen from today, it's easy for people like Pol Pot amidst any kind of chaos,
Right,
successful war free to take over and cause even more unnecessary damage. Uh,
right,
yeah,
right. And that's exactly right. We've seen that through all. We've seen that with some of these leaders create chaos, keep start something, get people talking about that, and then use that as a smokescreen to get what we really want. And that's definitely what he did. But it just like say the difference between him and some of the others is he was never poor, so he never had to do anything. He could have lived his life as a peaceful,
yeah,
as a peaceful man. Could have lived longer because he had family, had money. He had money. He had the best. So he never really had to do any of this.
yeah. And actually, um, I just found out that Pol Pot did had a little bit of a karma ending. He towards the end of in the last year of his life,
Mhm.
he returned to Cambodia and attempted to uh, support his old regime of the Communist Party of Khmer Rouge,
Mhm.
and he had a power struggle with the other members of the party.
Mhm.
However, um, he lost the power struggle and he was put out house arrest and then accused of those crimes against humanity. And eventually he was put in prison and he died of a heart attack in his sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of in a way a little poetic justice.
Yeah.
We know he deserved more than that.
Yeah.
He definitely
Yeah.
deserved more than that. He deserved the people's revenge.
Yeah,
That's what he deserved. But
yeah,
there, okay, I know they say I know he's buried. He is buried, I believe, in Cambodia.
yes, he is buried. I think, according to online sources, his body was preserved in improvised formaldehyde.
Mm.
However, the formaldehyde failed, so that the journalist could verify his death, and he was later on cremated. Yeah, in the Buddhist ritual.
Yeah, and they also say that there are some people that go to his grave and they like make offerings of food on certain holy days, and they be having cult activities around his grave. So he had a lot of, as crazy as it sounds, he actually had some followers that believed in him.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I guess that comes with the territory too. If you are a dictator, you have to have people do have to follow you and do what you
yeah.
say, and even after death, they still believe in you.
Yeah, there will be some supporters, but however, the real tragic part about people like Pol Pot is they create a whole generation of trauma
Yes.
for those who have experienced it. I have met ethnic Cambodians whose family either experienced the Cambodian genocide,
Mm.
or they fled the Cambodian genocide during that time, and they're uh, they're very scarred. They're very scarred at their family, and this trauma gets passed down because
Yeah.
of what happened. Because so many people died, everyone knew someone that died.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
1 in 3.
yeah,
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 of course. Yeah, there's
yeah.
certain tragedies that you are never going to forget, because even though we're talking the man died in 1998, yeah, there would be a lot of people that were alive during that time that he was in power,
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
yes, and then of course you would pass whatever he did. If you were lucky enough to escape that, yeah, you definitely want your children to know um, what happened in the past in your country. So that's why history is important. But the right facts in the history is definitely important, because obviously if you don't learn the past, then it just repeats.
Exactly.
Sometimes it repeats anyway, because sometimes people don't care about it.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to examine history with an independent mindset, because history is always written by the winners, and usually, sometimes those winners don't like telling the truth, and history gets rewritten.
Oh
And
yeah.
the population gets brainwashed. It's important to
Oh,
acknowledge it.
that you are 100% with that. The winners don't want to. The winners don't want you to learn how they want. How they don't want that at all. Like, hey, when I was younger and I was watching westerns and it was cowboy Indians, you were always you always in the movies. The Indians were the bad guy. You come to find out later when you read the history books, wait, they was here first.
Yeah.
They were trying to preserve their own culture. They didn't want to be moved out of their culture. And so it wasn't, the movies portray one thing, then there's what really happened. You're exactly right. All right, right.
Yeah.
It has been another great episode, as always. Thank you for all those people who are listening, because we have the best yet to come. We have some real we have some real killers coming up in the next few episodes.
Pillars.
Oh yeah, we gonna get real into detail with our next. Well, actually, with our next killer, we're gonna do it in 2 parts, because this guy was the most hated person of the 20th century.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who it is, you'll find out next week.
Yeah. Real antichrist.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. He was the second Antichrist. We hope the third one hasn't been born yet.
Correct.
All right.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone. All right.
All
Bye.
right. All right. Bye bye.